and gentlemen, we now have 1 minute to go before we're on air. So will you please welcome a group of gentlemen who are going to provide tonight's music, the Steve Naive Quartet.
There we go. Good night, everyone. See you next week.
Hang on, Jonathan.
Yeah?
Where are you going?
Well, I told you earlier, I'm off to Coventry to visit my old but kindly Auntie Dora.
The show's just about to start.
The show? Well, stripe me pink. I've completely forgotten about the show.
Well, what are we going to do? You can't let your Auntie Dora down.
No, of course not. And my train leaves in 5 minutes. You know, there's only one thing for it, don't you?
What's that?
I have to take the show with me. Come on, everyone.
Okay.
250 returns to Coventry, please. Well, there we are. Hello and welcome to the 10:33 special to Coventry. And what a packed train it promises to be, ladies and gentlemen. But of course, there is plenty of leg room and the buffet will be open near the back of the train. Whoa, good Lord, we do appear to be off, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as I was saying, we're now all in the firm but hospitable hands of British Rail, and that's not just myself, it's of course the crew and all of our guests this evening, including Tony Benn, Paula Yates, we had Slim Gaillard coming up, and do you mind if I just get in the Mercedes, sir? I do, excuse me. And we also have music this evening from Mary Coughlan and Marquis Smith from The Fall. But before we get on with that, let's say hello and pipe on board, if you will, our resident train band, Steve Naive and the Punched Out Tickets. And of course, although there's lots of fun to be had this evening on this train of delights, ladies and gentlemen, I do always bring some colouring books along, just in case the band get a little bit tired or confused.
All the tickets and rail cards, please.
Oh, my word. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, I did, in my generosity, buy tickets for all of our guests and all of the customers today, or even viewers. Hello, sir, excuse me again. But I forgot to get one for myself. But here's a little trick you might want to know about. I picked it up from watching some old Ealing comedies. You come with me here. Aha. Let's see what we can do here. Tickets, please! Tickets, please!
Oh, I'm only an old lady. I'm trying to wash my hands.
Well, never mind. Just slip it under the door and I'll clip it for you. There we are. Lovely. There you go. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, at home, you shouldn't try and copy that because you should get a ticket, not a criminal record, of course. So let's get on now and see if we can find our first guest of the evening. Oh, my word. There we are. He's a man, a living legend of the Beat generation, whose life story would fill several documentaries, and in fact did just last year. Oh, I'm sorry about this. He's also the writer and performer of such classic songs as Cement Mixer, Putty Putty, The Fat Foot Floozy with the Floy Floy, and of course my personal favourite, Dunking Bagels. Will you please welcome Mr. Slim Gaillard? Please pass this young lady here and join me.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
My word. I don't know what you want to do there. Do you want to climb over or do you want to climb out?
It's all right. Thanks a lot. Let me move right over here.
Oh, there we are. It's a pleasure to meet you, Slim.
Good to meet you.
I've been a fan of yours for about 75 years now.
Oh, well, good. That's
lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
And now, I was surprised to find that you live in England, you live in London.
Yes, in London.
You've travelled all over the world all your life. Why did you choose London to settle in?
I like the rain, actually, and I like the weather, and everybody is so nice and warm and wonderful here to me. I just enjoy it.
And you found these people in London, have you, Slim?
Right. I come here for 2 weeks. I've been here for 7 years now, and I just love it because it's super excellent.
What a lovely advertisement for London that was. Now, explain something to me, because I've seen, every now and then when I read articles about you, I've seen you performing about, is it Wouter Rooney?
Wouter Rooney.
Wouter Rooney.
And Rooney too.
And Rooney as well, so
yes.
I was half right.
You're right.
Well, what does that actually mean?
That means super extremely happy.
Wouter Rooney.
Wouter Rooney.
So if I was to say I was Valto Rooney to be on the train now,
You're happy.
I'd be lying.
No.
That's right. Didn't you put all these words down into a dictionary at some
Yeah, I
time?
have a dictionary that I put in called the Vouctionary. And I put all of the words in to fit anything, duplicate of whatever, in English.
So how many words were there in your dictionary?
About 700 and some words in it, more than that. Counting and everything.
Give us a few more examples then.
Like Scooty,
Like Scooty,
Orusimo,
Owusimo,
Lahorini.
Lahoini.
Yes.
And what would that mean?
That means it's such a pleasure to see you. You're a very nice personality,
That's lovely.
and I enjoy seeing you.
Alternatively, it could mean you just dropped one tab of acid too many, I suppose, couldn't it? But maybe not, Slim, and let's move on very quickly. There's some of your songs, you've written songs about bagels. We have Dunking Bagel.
Yeah, right.
I believe you have a song about chicken soup.
Chicken rhythm,
Chicken rhythm. There's one about matzo balls.
matzo balls and gefilte fish.
And what's Yipsok Helasai about?
Yiprakarisi.
Yiprok Harisi.
Well, yiprakarisi is an Arabian dish, and it's a real food, and it's all special on the menu. It have grapes, leaves, rice, onion, seasoning, and it's wrapped up like this, like cigar type thing, and that's yaprak.
So this is why food to inspire songs?
Because I was traveling with my father when I was a boy, and as a merchant seaman, and he was the steward cook, and I learned how to cook in all of the different languages. I cook in different languages.
So you're singing them all as well now?
Sing in the languages, and I cook in the languages.
So do you have any new dishes? Are you writing any ditties for McDonald's or anything? Or?
Well, I have some new things coming out now, but if I told you the title, you wouldn't know the titles, and you wouldn't know what it means. It means Tukowara Mikichumuwo. In English, it means hey man.
That sounds to me like you're just making that up now, Slim, to me. Now, it's a shame we can't have you play anything because you're brilliant. You play so many instruments, don't you? Which ones do
Oh,
you play?
quite a few. I enjoy instruments. Guitar, piano, saxophone, drum, congo, bongos and things, but I didn't bring one.
I've seen you play the piano. It's a shame. I don't suppose anyone would happen to have something like perhaps a Yamaha DX on the train. Oh, good heavens, my word, what a treat.
Oh,
Well, thank you there. Just
yeah.
one of the passengers has just spontaneously donated this.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen. Well, Slim, would you give us a little burst of something? How about a bit of Flatfoot Floozy, perhaps?
Flutie? When you're feeling low down.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. Slim Gaillard. Wasn't that? But that was, what were you singing then? Were you singing Floozy or Floogy?
Floozy. See, I wouldn't say floozy because that's the ladies of the evening, and they cut that off.
Well, that's what attracted me to the song in the first place, Slim.
I see.
You're dropping that part. You also play, I know I've seen you play with the back of your hands.
Oh, like this? Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, well, let's have a little demo if you wouldn't. Well, I could do that, Slim. Oh, that's great. Yeah, brilliant. And oh yes. And what about, don't you play also, I've seen you play, we're back to food again, but I've seen you play with lemons and stuff.
Yeah,
I don't have any lemons on me. No one would happen to have any lemons nearby, would they, by any chance? Oh,
Orange
good
is
heavens,
the
look at
lemon.
that. What a remarkable coincidence. You couldn't give us a demo of that as well, could you, Slim? There we are. Well, that was exceptional. Thank you very much. There you are.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that.
You were prepared for it, but you could have. Our passes, you're still standing better than Steve Naive on a good night, didn't you? It was very nice indeed. Let's go back in your past a bit, because you made some Hollywood movies way back in the 40s.
Yes.
You were in Hell's a Poppin', which is a stupendous movie.
Right.
But you were known at the time, you were something of a rake for dating some of the most beautiful women. I think Lana Turner, Ava Gardner, who else was there? There was Rita Hayworth as well. No, where did you take this kind of? Would you go out for a burger and some Coke, or would you take them somewhere swish, or?
Around the edges.
What does that mean?
That means not completely.
Not completely what though, Slim?
Well, not completely dated.
Yeah, I see.
Just around the edges.
I'm still a bit confused, but I'll leave it. I'll respect
I
you.
always learn if you can't convince somebody, confuse them.
Yeah, I think you've just confused me thoroughly, but in a very nice way. So how would you make, I'm just interested, mildly interested in it, but how would you make, for example, these are the world's most beautiful women, how would you attract them to you in the first place? What would you say to them and do for them?
What would I say to them? Well, the only thing I would say that I know that you're beautiful, and everybody knows that you're beautiful. But I think with me, the world will be so beautiful, and you should be with me.
That's it. Well, that is the top chat-up line of the evening, I believe, and you've ruined it for everyone else now. What do you think of like modern music? Because you still play, I know you play at the Wake Club in London and lots of other places, but
yes.
Obviously your style is still very much indicative of the period that you first broke out in, you know, the 40s and the 50s, I guess. What do you think of the modern sounds of them?
The modern sounds, I think, is very good. Today, I think it's, and also with the electrical introduction of all the different electrical instruments, synthesizers and all the combination with the live music and instruments, I think it's very good.
Do you think the jazz, and especially the kind of comedic jazz that you specialise in, do you think that'll ever come back and be like as popular as it was?
Well, I think it will be, because I just come back now from overseas, and the city I left from was -15, and hot jazz is swinging. I was over with some little friends from England. I was very happy to be with them. I with the little boys, and they gave me a good embrace, also happy to see me. But they like jazz, and the world like jazz, because jazz is music, and music comes from classical and the symphony and things. That's how jazz is.
Well, I certainly have. I'd like to see you back in the charts with something like Putty Putty.
Oh, you?
I'd love to see that. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Slim Gaillard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, all of this rhythmic movement has put me in the mood for some first-class foot-tapping music. And who better to turn to than, of course, Steve Naive and his punched-out friends with Mary Coughlan. Coughlan.
Things are different today, I hear every mother say. Mother needs something today to calm her down. And though she's not really ill, there's a little yellow pill. She goes running to the shelter of Mother's little helper to help her on her way, get her through her busy day. Things are different today, I hear every mother say. Cooking fresh food for the husband's just a drag. So she buys an instant cake, burns a frozen steak, and goes running to the shelter of Mother's little helper to help her on her way, get her through her busy day. Doctor, please, some more of these. Outside the door, she took 4 more. What a drag it is getting old. Men just aren't the same today, I hear every mother say. They just don't appreciate that you get tired. They're so hard to satisfy, you can tranquilize your mind. Go running to the shelter of Mother's little helper to get you through the night. Try to minimize your plight. Doctor, please, some more of these. Outside the door, she took 4 more. What a drag it is getting old. Things are different today, I hear every mother say. The pursuit of happiness is just a bore. And if you take more of those, you'll catch an overdose. No more running to the shelter of Mother's little helper to help you on your way, get you through your dying day. So please, some more of these. Outside the door, she
just pulled in, ladies and gentlemen, into Watford here, so if I can just climb out, I need to get a bit of fresh air. Yeah, oh, blimey. And of course, as you know, this is the show that cares about its staff, so this is where I think we'll probably let the band out to have a bit of a cigarette. Whoa, mind your head there. Dear, oh dear. You can't get the staff, can you, ladies and gentlemen? Well, as I said, this is Watford, of course, which is the home of, well, it's home of quite a lot of people, I suppose, really, and it's, oh dear, a bit of a disturbance.
Please leave the train and the immediate...
Do your duty gently there, stout yeoman. As I said, while we let the band have a fag break, why don't you at home enjoy a commercial break? But join us afterwards when we'll have some music. I'll be chatting to Tony Benn and our vampire hunter friend, Mr. Sean Manchester. See you then. Well, welcome back. Now, of course, we're just leaving Watford, which can only mean one thing. It's passport control, of course.
Come on,
sir. I'm at a bit of a... Could you stamp mine for me?
Hey, is it the first time you've been up north,
This
sir?
is my first time in the north
Oh,
of England.
bad jingle. We're very friendly fellas up here.
Lovely. I do like those clogs you're wearing.
Hey, said to you, hey, I can't wait to get out bit for the lemon
I
pants.
bet you can't. Well, best of luck, sir. Bye-bye. Okay, well, let's move on and see if we can find our next guest of the evening. As you can see, I'm prepared with my flask, and my passport's been duly stamped. It should be up here somewhere. Oh, good lord. We do appear to have stumbled into second-class carriage, or, of course, standard class, as we must learn to call it. But that's where we'll find our next guest, I'm sure. He probably sees himself in the great tradition of English dissenters. Others have used other terms to describe him, including loony, dangerous, and just plain awkward, and they're probably members of his own party. Please welcome the oldest lefty in town, Mr. Tony Benn. Excuse me, madam, can I just... oh, I do apologise. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Are you going to start the tape, Tony? Yeah. Now, this is a manual... Well, stop now. You better fiddle with that. This is for posterity.
Well,
and what a show to record, Tony.
I started to do it to protect myself, but I kept it for the record.
You kept it for the record.
How's your show going?
Well, it's going down the pan fast, but thanks for asking. Now, would you like a cup of tea? I know
Yes, I would.
You're a big
I
tea
would,
drinker.
I would,
There you go.
yeah.
Settle your nerves with that. Do you really have no vices? Are you just a tea drinker?
I'm a tea drinker and a pipe smoker and a vegetarian and a socialist.
And a socialist. So the socialist is the vice part then, is it, Tony? Let me ask you about something here. Would you be using public transport on a regular basis? Is something...
Regular. I spend more time on the train than you do. I go up to Chesterfield twice a week, and I travel on the train all the time, do my work. It's the only way to travel. I don't drive.
Exactly. Now, let's get on with the question, Tony. One thing I want to ask you, because years ago I used to be a member of the Labour Party, and I no longer am.
Yeah.
I'm a lapsed member. But socialism used to be the thing that excited young people. It was the thing that I remember at university, students, it was always the Labour Party, or it was even more extreme, radical left-wing parties. Now that seems to have died out. Now it seems to be just the Green Party or ecology movements that people want to get involved
Well, the Labour Party was never a socialist party. I mean, it always had socialists in it, and outside it as well. But I tell you the way I look at it, I mean, we've seen changes in Eastern Europe now on a very big scale. And socialism couldn't work unless it was serious and people wanted it by consent. And therefore I think what we're really witnessing is a renewal of that. If you look at South Africa, for example, with the release of Mandela, every generation discovers for itself that people want a home to live in, they want education for their kids, they want to have proper health service, they want to have decent pension, and they want peace, and they want reasonable social justice. And I do not myself believe that this generation will be any different. But every generation's got to find it for itself. It can't be taught by older people.
But it does seem to me like the causes that socialism used to excite people with, the idea of a solid democratic base of the country, now doesn't seem as important. I mean, people seem to accept we've got that far, we don't need to go any further.
Well, look at the poll tax. I mean, the most vicious tax that's ever been introduced since 1381. In Scotland, there are 500,000 people who haven't paid the poll tax. Look at the mortgage rate. A lot of people who had a job, bought a house, can't keep up the mortgage, lose their jobs, and there's councils haven't got any houses. So I think myself, you're going to find it's coming back.
It's coming back, but it seems to be coming back by default. It's not because the Labour Party seem to be going out there and saying...
I'm not talking about the Labour Party.
Oh,
I'm talking about the ideas that go back from the beginning of history. People want justice.
But surely they're not
peace.
the ideas that are working. What's happening there is the other system is proving itself to be redundant and not working, and therefore just by accident people are turning to others because there's no choice.
Experience. I mean, you can't teach somebody to be a socialist. Nobody's ever been made a socialist by a book or a speech or an interview. But when people sit down and say, why are pensioners finding it hard to manage? Why are single-parent mums not able to cope? Why have they cut the benefits, cut the tax on the rich? Why are we spending £371 per man, woman and child on weapons when the world needs goods? I think myself that the 90s are going to be very different from the 80s.
Well, let me put something to you here. I mean, we all agree with what you're saying. I'm sure most people agree that that's a terrible state of affairs. but no one actually seems to know, and probably the members of the party themselves, what the Labour Party are offering as an alternative. It seems to be the case that they're just waiting for the Conservatives to dig themselves into a deeper and deeper pit, and so they can, as I said, win by default. And just at the moment,
there's something in that argument, because having been out for a long time, I think the Labour Party at the top is a bit cautious. But if I look down the line, I find it quite different. I mean, I mentioned the poll tax. I was asked to a meeting the other day, 1,000 people in Hornsey Town Hall, all over the country now, huge poll tax meeting, but the media don't report them. If it was in Leipzig or Bucharest or Prague or East Berlin, but not in Britain, we don't get much coverage. And I was in Trafalgar Square when Mandela came out. Fantastic. I'm going to be there again Saturday. And the feeling there is enormous. But there is a press blackout on everybody who isn't broadly in the centre of British politics, I think.
Let's go back a little bit. You just mentioned the kind of cautious leadership of the Labour Party. Do you think you might be something of an embarrassment to people like Kinnock, insofar as you seem to be a politician of great conviction, and you stuck to the conviction that, I mean, I know you tried to drag the Labour Party to a further left-wing stance in the early 70s and actually failed.
I think you have to speak your mind. I mean, people have a time in the wilderness. But if you look at Dubček in Czechoslovakia, you remember, he was put in prison after 1968, and he come back again.
Is that parallel with Kinnock you're talking there?
No, I'm really talking about people who speak their mind. Now, if you take Arthur Scargill, absolutely treated with contempt, and yet what Arthur said about the mining industry was right. Nuclear power 3 times as expensive as coal. Arthur will one day be rehabilitated and be seen to be a man of enormous principle and integrity. Look at the Greens. Now, they were laughed at a few years ago, the Brown Bread and Sandals Brigade. Now, Mrs. Thatcher's a Green. Why? Because they stuck to their guns, they argued their case, and with the latest Sellafield cancer figures and so on, the Green movement is growing in strength. So, you have to take a historical perspective. You can't get it at once. But if you stick to your guns and you're right, in the end, people will come round.
Okay, what if you stick to your guns and you're wrong? What happens then?
Well, then you pay the price. But I think there's no alternative but to speak your mind. I can't see any point in being in Parliament just to please people. I mean, you have to speak your mind.
But that does seem to be the way the Labour Party's heading. It seems to be, it's a cautious vote-getting party now, isn't it? It's not a party of ideals anymore.
Well, if you go back, you know, there have been periods in Labour history, not so different. Ramsay MacDonald, whom I met when I was a kid in 1930, I mean, he helped to build the Labour Party, and then he defected. George Brown, David Owen, dozens of them got into power and then quit. And I think on the whole, history will be kindest to the people who said what they thought, whatever it was. I'm not saying you have to agree with me, but I can't see there's much future in abuse in politics. It's got to have substance. There's got to be choice and argument. And anyway, I can't do anything else. If people don't want it, they'll sling me out. But they've elected me for nearly 40 years, and that may be because I've said what I thought.
I tell you what, it's a bloody good cup of tea, isn't it, Tony?
Well, I haven't got time to drink it
Have
yet.
a sip then while I ask you next question.
Okay.
You know, I believe you're just 6 weeks away from your 65th birthday.
That's right.
Is that correct? Now, politicians, I believe...
65th, did you say, or
65th?
That's right. I'll be a pension on April
I wouldn't
3rd.
add a year on you, Tony.
No, I don't mind. I wouldn't take a day off my life.
Politicians, I believe, and also judges don't have to retire when they're 65, like the rest of us mere mortals. Do you think that should be changed? Why is that the case?
Well, there are 9 million pensioners. Are you saying that they're going to be statutorily barred from being represented in Parliament? I mean, there's one argument, but the other argument is quite simple. You can't be in Parliament because you want to be. You're elected. You have to be selected by your party and then elected by your constituency. And I think you can't limit people's right to vote for whoever they want. I mean, some people have collapsed by the time they're 25 politically. Fenner Brockway, who died at 99 2 years ago, one of the finest political leaders of my generation. So I think you have to leave it to people to make up their mind who they want to represent them.
Tony, it's been a pleasure speaking to you,
okay,
as always, and hopefully I'll see you for another cup of tea on the way home.
All right, take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Benn.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'm going to head off now in search of some sustenance, see if I can still keep going until I'm 65, and we're better than the British Rail... oh, hello. You live in a squat, do you? We're better to go than the British Rail canteen over it, and you know, why, I think I can smell the chips fine now, or is that the bang? I'm not sure, but anyway, let's have a look and see what we find in here. Here we are. You want to mind yourself, Duncan, walking backwards like that. Here we are. Now, oh, good. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, sir. Pleasure to serve you.
Oh, what a lovely way of good you have. As always,
Do you know, we have almost every range that you could possibly think of here, sir, and it's no pleasure to you.
Really? No pleasure at all?
Oh, of course not. What about, sir? There's plenty of pleasure for you. You know what my watchword is? It only takes a minute to say thank you, sir.
1 minute.
Next a minute, yeah. Well, I'm a bit of a drunk.
Well, now, what do you have then? You have just about anything I want, you said. Is that right?
Anything you care to have, sir. We have everything on our menu.
I'll tell you what I have a craving for, if you can help me here. I'd like a nice bit of brown bread with then a bed of crisp lettuce on top, and then perhaps some freshly sliced coelacanth, then maybe a little bit of mind-expanding mescaline sprinkled on top, and a tiny little bit of fine English mustard on the side. Could you do that for me?
Well, as a matter of fact, sir, you're out of luck. I do apologise. You know, I sold the last 5 to the band. Only moments ago.
Well, you couldn't do a hot bacon sandwich for me then, could you?
I'll do that for you, yes,
Lovely,
sir.
okay, I'll be in here.
You don't mind me saying you look like a man who enjoys his food.
Well, I do mind you saying. I'll be in here in a second. Will you be in for me?
Oh, yes, sir. Hey, sir, if I can do anything for you, I'll do it.
There you go. Oh, dear. Now, that's something, isn't it? There we are. Well, it's all going very well, ladies and gentlemen, and as I'm sure you'll agree out there in TV land. And now it's time for our next guest. He's a man who's devoted his life to fighting evil, Satanism, materialism, and, of course, vampires. And even claims in the early 70s to have tracked down a vampire and driven a stake through its evil heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Highgate's answer to Mr. Van Helsing, Sean Manchester. I just spoke about your vampire business there. What do you actually do for a living?
I explore those regions which remain, even to this day, unexplored. I pioneer the frontiers which remain totally untrekked.
It sounds like the introduction for an episode of The Twilight Zone.
That's pretty close to the mark.
So, but what do you do for a living? How do you make your money?
I write about the investigations that I embark upon, but of the 70 investigations into vampires, only 2 have produced conclusive evidence that these creatures exist.
So you do say quite openly that vampires do exist, the supernatural type of vampires walk the earth.
When I speak of the vampire, I'm not speaking about psychic vampires that drain the energy from people, nor am I speaking of living vampires who are psychotics, who probably suffer from hemodipsia, which is a sexual thirst for blood.
Good heavens.
I'm talking about the undead, the most supernatural realm of the devil's emissaries.
So kind of like the guys we would see in Hammer horror films?
Not too far removed from that, but far worse, far, far worse.
So how do you find out about this kind of thing? I mean, how many vampires do you think there are in the world?
I don't carry out a census of vampires. It's been carried out in America, and I'm rather doubtful about its accuracy. As I say, I've only happened upon 2 genuine cases of vampirism in all my years of investigating.
I mean, people would, I think, be forgiven for greeting some of what you're saying with a degree of scepticism. They would think, you know, perhaps you're off your trolley there. How would you answer those sort of statements?
Well, when I first started out many years ago, I would have thought probably the same. It's not until you've come face to face with the undead that you can believe in such things. And until you have, it's easy to scoff and it's easy to disbelieve. But the vampire's most powerful weapon is, of course, your and other people's disbelief.
Well, let's have a look at some of the photographs you have here. Now, what's going on in this one? This is a woman with a couple of pimples on her neck. Would that be right?
Yes, this is one of the earliest victims we had recorded, which was in the very late 60s, who did have nightly visitations from the infestation at Highgate, and was slowly being drained and suffered from pernicious anemia, until, that is, that the correct antidotes were applied, and she was none the worse for her visits. She was rescued.
So what would the correct antidote be? I always thought if a vampire in the movie, someone sucks your blood, that's it, you die, you wake up 3 days later or something, and there you are, you've got a cape and you...
Virtually any powerful symbol of the triumph of good over evil, which the victim and the vampirologist thoroughly believe in. I personally use Christian images and holy relics. The cross, for example,
yes.
The crucifix, which is an ultimate symbol of the triumph of good over evil, is hateful to the vampire. They shy from it. As with garlic.
Oh, that's a lovely fresh bunch, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you think some people might find it a bit offensive that you use a symbol of their faith involving in what they would see as like supernatural hocus pocus and...
Well, on the contrary, because I'm doing what the church did down the centuries very efficiently, but has ceased to do in our present time. and I've had to carry on the work, which they don't seem to be particularly equipped to any longer carry out. And in itself, this doesn't mean a thing, except that it's a symbol. And without the faith behind the symbol, it's not effective.
Do you have any of the other equipment in there? Do you have any of it?
Well,
do you actually use stakes and mallets and stuff?
The holy water, of course, burns the true vampire as some scorching acid. As you can see, I've used up my stock there.
That's a lovely old bottle, isn't it? Where do you get that? You get it in odd bins or something, do you?
No, that's been knocking around. I was born in a very old house.
It looks remarkably like English tap water, doesn't it?
Well, all water is water. Holy water is simply water that's been blessed. And
right. It's a lovely bottle, though. Nice bit of Chianti in that would go down the tube, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Do you have a stake in there you could show us?
Well, the hand stake, of course, is discreet and can be carried on one's person.
That is, of course.
And can be made of any wood, but aspern, maple, whitethorn or hawthorn is preferable.
And do you carve these yourself?
Well, I have them made. The recent hurricanes have produced a lot of wood, which we're taking full advantage of. But the one that I used on the Highgate vampire was closer to the Van Helsing, as we call it, because this is the approved.
Look at the size of that one.
Yes, it's a whopper.
Well, now how do you carry this around with you? Well, I mean, surely they'd see you coming with this stuff down your trouser leg or something, wouldn't they?
Well, if you want the secret, I use a cricket bag. But
good heavens! But what about the stake?
It's not. Well, the problem with this one is you have to be darn accurate between the fourth and fifth rib. Right. This one, you don't even have to open the lid practically. That just
Boom,
does the job. Yeah.
Now we're talking actually about something. I mean, is there no room of doubt in your mind that you could have made a mistake and just staked someone who's just dead and
we're talking about a supernatural being that can quickly change into mist or even another creature. A bat, for example, to use a cliche.
Yeah.
We're talking about something which does not in any way resemble a dead or a living person, but someone that belongs to the Twilight Zone.
You have some photographs here
Not
of...
someone, something.
Something?
Yeah.
You have some photographs here of vampires in states of decomposition, I believe. Is that one?
This is a representation that was used in one of my earlier publications.
So what is this? This would be a plasticine model or something you make, or?
No, that's simply a representation, an early one that we used in the death throes of.
It looks surprisingly like. Have you ever seen Derek Jameson up close? Thank you.
Right. Well, I won't offer any argument over that.
Hey, but ladies and gentlemen, Derek Jameson is not, I repeat, not a vampire, okay?
However, after that picture was used to represent what a vampire might look like in the last moments of exorcism, because of course up until then a picture is not obtainable because vampires will not record on film until they are no longer vampires.
I'm sure.
They live in anti-time.
Hello, your sandwich, Mr. Aspel.
Lovely, thank you very much.
And it'll be 12 pence, please, in new money.
Okay, well, I'll have to pay you later if that's okay. Can I send
all
that?
right?
I'm just conducting an interview if you don't mind.
Of course, it's all right. I tell you what, sir, since you're on the television, why don't you have it for nothing?
Thank you very much indeed.
We are on television now, aren't we?
What a kindly gentleman. Off you go. Goodbye, off you go. Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Dear, oh dear. Well, Sean, it's been a lot of pleasure talking to you. It certainly has, and it's certainly an education as well. I'm not 100% convinced, but...
Well, that's the real vampire there.
Oh, we have a photograph of a real vampire?
Oh, that's the real one.
Well, this...
Moments after it had been staked.
Got a bit of bacon sandwich on him at the moment, but...
Unfortunately, but...
It does look a bit like Lloyd Cole, doesn't it, from last week's show?
Only able to catch that on film after it has returned to normal time. It's no longer in its undead
I'm very
state.
glad you did. That's marvellous. Well, listen, carry on staking, as they would say. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sean Manchester. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, I believe we're just pulling in to a station. I better go and have a check and see which one it is, so you've got to come with me, yeah? Oh, well, what a nice fella that buffet chap was. There we go. Let's have a look and see exactly where we're pulling up to, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good heavens, it's Milton Keynes. And if that doesn't sound like a good excuse for commercial break, I don't know what does. Join us afterwards when I'll be chatting to Paula Yates and we'll have music from Mark E. Smith. Ooh. Oh, welcome back to the final leg of this historic televisual journey. And if you've just joined us, I'm afraid you've missed Tony Benn because we dropped him off at Milton Keynes. But still to come, we have Mark E. Smith and Paula Yates. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was very impressed to find out that this particular train has won an award for being the most crime-free on the British Rail network. This is the award it's won here, and you can see it's a beautiful award. It's solid silver, it's got a lovely bit of plastic at the bottom there. It's a very lovely, remarkable... Oh, hey! Hands off. Oh, well, there you go. As I said, absolutely crime-free, ladies and gentlemen. Well, time for some music now from a man best known as the lead singer of The Fall. He's joined by Craig Scanlon, fellow Fall member. Here he is with Steve Naive and the punched-out ticket collectors, Mark E. Smith. Well, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mark E. Smith there. And what a laughter-filled extravaganza this show has turned out to be, ladies and gentlemen. And excuse me one second. There you go. What a show we've had this evening, ladies and gentlemen. And oh my word, I thought I saw this fella creeping on a bit earlier. Why, it's none other than my old friend, Dr. Martin Scrott, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Dr. Scrott. Do you mind if I try and get in here? Hey? Doctor, hello.
What's going on? What's happening?
We're nearing Coventry. We're almost there.
What do you mean, Coventry?
Yeah, we're almost there. What's your business there?
No, Newcastle. I've got to get to Newcastle really quick.
Well, you're on the Coventry train. What do you have in there, then? What's this all about?
Donut pods.
Donut
What do you mean, Coventry? I've got to get to Newcastle. I've got a cab waiting and everything.
Well, this is the Coventry train. I hate to tell you that. Well,
what
do you have in there? I mean, what do you actually have in there?
Well, it's donuts. It's parts.
You have donuts in there, do you?
Listen, people are going to be gutted in Newcastle.
Oh dear, they probably have been already, haven't they, to get you those stuff? Let's have a look. What do you have there? What are we talking about? You best not open them, had you? Shouldn't you keep them clean and sterile? Oh dear. Well, what
appendix.
It's an appendix?
Yeah.
So what you're going to give that to someone?
Yeah, I'm shipping appendix.
But I was under the impression, Doctor, and of course I'm not a medical man, but I was under the impression that appendix were what you just took out. I thought they were the useless organ.
Yeah, but there's hundreds of uses, you see. Look, if you look at that appendix, right?
Yeah.
Take a look at that. All you need to do is cut the end off there, and you can use that as a cartilage in your knee.
Oh, I see. So you can turn the organ to other use then.
Yeah.
So many of our top athletes,
tennis elbow.
They would have that there.
Maybe a knee.
Marvellous.
I don't know.
That's what it's for. There's someone waiting for that one right now, is there?
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna be.
Well, make sure you run out of the tap before you give it to them.
Oh no, Coventry. What's happening?
Do you have any other uses at all? I mean, is there anything else we could?
Well, you know, if you staple a lot of them together, then you can sort of extend your colon.
Oh, well, that's a fascinating medical treatment.
So you don't have to go to the lab that often.
That's a very nice treat, that really is.
That's not a bad one. And also, Oh, so you can wear them as earrings?
You could. 101 uses then is what we're saying.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Well,
I bought up 2 years' supply.
Well, I can't tell you, I'm afraid, because we're almost at Coventry now. Let me just touch on. I know there's a lot of young people out there. Of course, you know, there's been a resurgence in drug use and drug abuse these days.
Yeah, oh, it's shocking.
I wondered, as a doctor, a lot of people look to you for advice. What would you say to the young people watching?
What, they're all in acid house?
Yeah.
Well, I've changed my phone number and I've got nothing till Wednesday.
Okay, well, lovely. Fine words indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Martin Scrott. We'll see you a bit later.
I'm gutted.
Can I get over you there again, please? Thank you very much. Oh. See you later, Doctor.
Yeah.
In Coventry. Okay, well, as I said, we're nearly there now. We're almost nearly there, yes, and so's the cameraman. And, of course, we only have time for one more guest, but what a fine guest she is, ladies and gentlemen. Well, do you want to get a move on, fellas? She's not only a TV presenter, she's also a journalist. She's written several books. She's a mother of 2 children, and she's here on this train, we hope. One of her books, called Rock Stars in Their Underpants, was described by no less an authority than Andy Warhol as perhaps the greatest work of art of the past decade. Ladies and gentlemen, who could it be? Yes, and none other than Paula Yates. Hello, Paula. Oh, blimey. Well, it's all going very well, isn't it, Paula?
I'm just stunned by it all.
It's marvellous, isn't it?
I can't wait to have my colon extended.
You can't now. So what are you up to the moment? Because you're not seen on British TV that much anymore, but I know you've got to deal with the Japanese going.
Yes, at the moment I've been doing the show every Friday, which is #1 in Japan. And it's proved to me that everything that we've seen on those programmes about Japanese television are in fact completely true. Because every week they ask me to dress up as a licorice allsort, and if they don't ask me to dress up as a licorice allsort, they say, "Ah, that's very nice dress, but chicken feet would improve it."
So they like to see you in very unusual outfits.
They like the sort of surprise element, you know, things like that.
I read somewhere about them liking to sniff bottoms or something. Would that be a long way from the truth?
Well, no, a friend of mine appeared on a show very similar to mine, not my show, but similar to mine, in Japan, and the item before her group, very famous group she's in, the item before her group was this thing about acupuncture points, and this man was lying naked on a table having joss sticks lit on his acupuncture points, and the presenter of the show came over and stuck his finger right up this man's bottom and sniffed it and then said, "And now!" and introduced her band.
There aren't any jobs going on those sort of shows, you know about then, are there? That sounds right up my street.
I've not been there in a while.
Now, you're looking gorgeous as always, I must say. Mother of 2 children. Oh, thank you very much. I'm not the mother of 2 children, no. But you're looking gorgeous as always. Now, let's talk a little bit about the birth, if we may. Or the births. Was Bob there at the births? Any part?
My stitches, my...
Oh, no, let's not go too far.
It's because I've been watching him about colon.
Yeah, he gets carried away.
Yes, Bob was there. And
So
my
it's-
big girl was there.
No, that's Fifi.
Yeah.
Now, that is an unusual name for a child, isn't it?
What, Fifi?
It's a poodle's name, really,
It's
isn't
not. It's not. It's Bob's auntie's name.
it? So Bob's auntie is a poodle.
No, Bob's auntie's a lady called Fifi.
Oh, I see.
So snitty.
I'm snitty,
I
but-
know your name's
Oh, no, just-
Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen, with a PH. Well, what's Bob like as a father then? I mean, what are you like as parents, in fact? Are you worried about the fact, because you're both very high profile. Does that worry you that you bring your kids up and they're going to be very much under scrutiny?
No, well, I mean, it's a bit of a pain in the bottom when people chase them and try and take the picture because Fifi really, really hates it and is very frightened now of photographers because she's had horrible experiences. But I don't worry in the sense that, like, she's not particularly aware of the fact that we're famous.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't think
well, she wouldn't know
we're
anything else,
glamorous
would
or
she?
famous or anything.
Yeah.
So that's all right. It's normal.
What about the actual pregnancy period itself? Because I'm yet to have children, but I'm trying hard.
Are you?
Oh, yes. And
Really?
with just about anyone available, in fact. And I was just wondering, I mean, what sort of changes does your body go through? Because I know you get
Well,
the
you
lump.
become repulsive.
No, you don't.
You do. You become completely repulsive and you lie in the bath and you look like Guy the gorilla when he got stuffed because you've got little legs that stick out and your stomach's like that.
But I think...
And you've got massive bosoms, which of course won't bother you.
Well, I don't think it
You'll
bother
love
most
that
men,
bit.
really, would it? Do you really think that's a repulsive...
Oh, it is when it's resting on your stomach and your chin's resting on the whole thing. It's horrible.
Is it true you also grew a little moustache while you were
I
pregnant?
did, yes.
Now, that's something to look forward to, I should
I
imagine,
know,
isn't it?
and Bob was lying there in bed with me one night and he said, "Do you know, since you've been pregnant, you've had this lovely moustache." So it's just horrible. It's all horrible what happens to your body.
No,
but then it goes back.
May I ask you
So it
about
gets-
sex a little bit, Paula? Because I know you've written about sex. You've probably indulged as well, I should imagine.
I've tried it twice.
You had a TV series, Sex with Paula.
Yes.
which was a Channel 4 show, and it never appeared. And I always wondered what happened
Just
there.
too hot to handle it.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was like you and I when we get our sexual chemistry going.
There is a certain something, isn't there? I thought it might be the way the train was
spot.
moving, but
well,
no,
I feel
it's...
all hot. I'm actually flushed. I'm getting a rash. In fact, I am getting a rash being
Is that what
near
it
you.
is? Is that a rash, is it?
I think we had two problems with it. One, that it was shot by a video director, so it all looked very, you know how videos always look sort of sexy and
Steamy.
steamy. It did look quite steamy, and it coincided with the first spate of government AIDS adverts.
Right, so just about the time the AIDS
and
disease
so
was known.
AIDS first really became known, and it was deemed sort of not a good idea to have a programme that kind of looked steamy and was very forthright.
Yeah. And I guess as well, presumably,
At the time of AIDS
and if you'd
first
already made it,
becoming
you wouldn't have been dealing with the AIDS issues. So
No, not at all. I mean,
right.
in a way, it'd be quite an interesting document now because it's very much the attitudes of 4 years ago, before people knew that.
Because
all
you
of that.
interviewed some of the top pop stars on their sexual peccadillos. For
Yeah.
example, George Michael. And there's a fellow
He
with
kept
some
his jumper.
peccadillos, isn't there? I mean, he really... what are we
I can't really
missing
remember
there?
what his peccadillos were. All I can remember was he was roped in to do the opening sequence, which was meant to be a sort of cine noir of him looking out of a window wearing a vest, and it was raining, and I was lying on a bed, you know,
Well,
with a sheet
looking
wrapped around
sexy.
me, sort of looking sexy. And he was meant to come over to the bed, and then it was meant to be the opening credit. However, when he got there, it was a bit cold, and he wouldn't take his jumper off. So he had a huge green and grey cable knit jumper on. And then when he threw himself on the bed, the whole camera was obscured by his big tennis socks.
Oh, that's sexy,
So
isn't it?
actually, that really sums up the series.
Well,
Not very sexy after all.
Well, I can see we're all very disappointed we
And
missed
we're
it
quite
then.
glad it's not been shown.
Yeah, if that's the case. I like your hair like that. I like it with the down, with the fringe and all that. But it's blonde. But you tried it brown for a short time last year. Now, what was the offshoot of that?
It's horrible.
Didn't like it.
No. Because you go sort of invisible when you've got brown hair if you're used to being blonde. I mean, I'm used to not being able to make it down to Sloane Square without it being like Mandingo. You know, I mean, it's meant to, and suddenly I was going down to Sloane Square and it was like...
I'm not even going to pick you up on that because, frankly,
I was like Deirdre, Deirdre from Coronation Street, and so I dyed it back after a week. I didn't like it.
We're rapidly nearing Coventry, I know, and we're going to run out of time. So there's a question I always wanted to know, is about Bob again, I'm afraid, because I'm a big fan of Bob's. I've always liked him an
I
awful
thought
lot.
you were going to be talking about books all the time.
We'll talk about books if you want. But Bob,
yes.
Scruffy geezer has to be said. But is he always like that? Does he leave the house smart and then he's like Pigpen, he comes back all dirty?
No,
or
he's
is
always dirty. We took a photo. He had a bath when we got married, and we took pictures. And then he had a bath about 2 years ago.
And
we took pictures again.
And these baths presumably coincided with the conception
Major
of
events.
your children, were
Yeah,
they? Would that
immediate shaggy.
That would be the evening, would it? Then,
Frenzy. You know, my God, you've washed yourself. This is it. And so he is quite a scruff bag and quite grubby.
But you know, you've just scared every other woman off very successfully there.
No,
so,
because women are all crazed, aren't they now? They want to see if he smells.
Anyway, well, let's talk. I know you've written a book. You've written several books, but you've written one now which promises to be very steamy, which is about the Chelsea set that you hang out with. Is
Well,
that the
I've
case?
written it. This is the bloody novel. I didn't want to mention that. My novel is rather late.
It's rather late.
Yeah, it was meant to be in 2 years ago. It's been flushed down our toilet twice.
Yes.
Got writer's block. So in the meantime, I've written another book.
And that is?
It's about babies.
That's about babies. Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time.
Oh, stop!
But I can't wait to hear about the babies book on the way back from Coventry.
I was going to tell you about my stitches. Oh, you're so rotten to me. I was dying to talk about
and
babies.
people at home are saying, what a terrible shame we didn't get to hear about
They
Paula's
are, they're
stitches
on
this
the-
evening.
they're-
Yeah, they're on the phone right now saying, we want more stitch talk. Ladies and gentlemen, the fully stitched up Paula Yates.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, that was marvellous. Well, I believe we are arriving at Coventry now, ladies and gentlemen. So that brings us to the end of this week's whale-biting edition of 1 Hour with Jonathan. Well, thanks to all my guests, of course, the effervescent Paula Yates. Who else do we have? Slim Gaillard earlier on. We had Marquis Smith, we had Mary Coughlan, we had Sean Manchester, and we had, of course, Tony Benn. Thanks very much for watching. Good night, and please bear in mind, when other chat shows go to the Wales, you saw it here first, because this is television of the future now, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for watching. Good night. It's amazing what you can do in a studio, isn't it, Steve?
London and commentary, 52 minutes.
Yeah. But it's amazing what you do in a studio, though, isn't it?
Yeah, why not camera?
Early night for you, as always?